All right, Adam, we're going to talk today about allied resources and affiliates. So first off, tell us about you. What's your background? You're on mute still, I think.
Rookie.
We'll edit that out. Go ahead.
Sure. Again, my name's Adam Dow. Sell real estate in New Hampshire. The home office is Wolfboro, New Hampshire. It's a town where I was born and raised, so I feel like there's a little bit of an advantage there, and also an advantage that we have a 44,000 acre lake that is bordered in Wolfboro. There's 7 other towns that are around the lake, so we do have a lot of luxury. And I actually started selling luxury before I get into high units, because that is really what I knew. Like growing up on the lake, I had the knowledge that corporate CEOs didn't. Like where does the wind blow? Where does the sun set? Where do you fish? You know, all of those sorts of things were turned into expertise that people found valuable. And that's what I focused on in the beginning. And so last year we did like around 215 million, 300 sales, and our team's the #1 team in New Hampshire right now, and we are adjusting to the new market. And last week I did sell a $14 million house, which Wes, you and I were just talking about, and that's who I just took the phone call from, but I told him I'd call him later so I could talk to you guys.
Gorgeous house too. Absolutely gorgeous. So how many's on your team?
I've got 20 people, 20 agents that are, we call them area experts. So we're running a model where instead of saying buyer agents or seller agents, we like to put a responsibility around our titles. So when somebody calls me and they see my name on the sign, I say, oh, where are you looking? What's your preference and location? If they say Meredith, I can say, oh, great. My area expert for Meredith is Shanna. And if they say, well, I'm actually looking up in ski country, I can say, great. Are you looking at Boone, because that's Jessica, or are you looking over in North Conway, because that's Krista? Like, so we have area experts all spread out, you know, at least an hour and a half apart from each other, from north to south, the furthest people, but 20 people covering the whole state. And then from the seacoast through the lakes to the mountains. And then we've got a transaction coordinator, a listing coordinator, a director of marketing, and my wife is the director of ops with 2 VAs.
So kind of tell us, you know, how you get your new agents in production with their affiliates and allied resources. How do we build that? And what does that mean?
So we call them influencers, and I gotta, do you want me to share my screen with my little presentation here?
Go ahead.
All right, so this is when I look back on how did I grow my luxury business. Like I said, I was in the luxury business before I got into the high units. And when I started a team, when I joined Keller Williams about 10 years ago, I said, how did I break into the business? Like I kind of reverse engineered it so that I could teach my agents how to do that. And it was really through my relationships. We used to call it sphere of influence. We used to call it a lot of other things. But I think calling people influencers in this context really helps us narrow down what we're looking for. So this is about earning and keeping the most important relationships for your luxury business. This is a class that I do. So emphasize the importance of a relationship, learn how to identify and maintain relationships with key influencer relationships. And an ignored influencer can turn into an influencer for somebody else. Like if we don't maintain these, then it's, you know, they can go away, because these people have lots of people that want to be friends with them. So what is influence? It's basically the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or their effect itself. Similar words, and some of these are powerful. Authority, domination is very powerful, supremacy, but influence is an action. It is something that describes something that we would want ourselves. You know, so for us, and the reason I dropped, dropped sphere of influence, sphere of, just because you know somebody, you might have 5,000 people in your database, you know, your sphere is very big, But if they don't know anyone, or if they don't have any influence and you don't have any influence over them, then you just have a lot of friends. Like, so in our world, an influencer is somebody who has influence in the community. Like there's board members, or they own a business or something, they have influence in the community. And that person uses that influence to give you business. Like for me, if I know a business owner, I know a lot of builders at this point. So if a builder gets asked the question because he has influence, and then he says, all right, well, if you're looking for a realtor, choose the Dow Group or call Adam. You know, so the two-way of influence is very important when we're thinking about this. So we talk about the 3 stages: identify, earn, and maintain. And you know, I say not every influencer relationship is created equal, because I'm running 2 screens, so sorry for making you sick here. Not every influencer relationship is created equal. So I have a couple examples of influencers throughout this. So my friend Paul. So Paul and I, we both like to golf. He has an insurance company. I run a real estate team. He's super well respected in the community. He was actually named like the Citizen of the Year one year. Like he gives a bunch to charity. He volunteers a bunch. He was an athlete in high school coming up through, you know. So Paul was somebody I said, I identified. I said, I want to be in an influencer relationship with him. I was friends with him already, so it was easier, but I identified him as one of my people that I wanted to be in friendship with, but more importantly, in an influencer relationship with. So Paul and I've earned that. We now do events together. Like over the wintertime, since we're both golfers, we did a Duran versus Dow. His last name is Paul Duran. So Duran versus Dow golf simulator battle. And we had a lot of marketing around it. We had some fun with it. But I invited my top 50 people who golf in our town. He invited his top 50 people that golf in our town. So we got this cross-pollination of influencers that now, through the fact that, you know, it's basically transferring Paul's influence onto me. So if Paul says to somebody, Adam's a great realtor, they're now basing their judgment on me on Paul's reputation because he's recommending me. So not all influencers are created equal, just means that you should be very intentional about your influencer relationship. So if you're going to be in an influencer relationship with an accountant, why not do some research on who's the best accountant in town? If you've got somebody that's moving into the area and they say, all right, who should I use for being who should I use for an accountant? Who should I use for a tax attorney? Who should I use for all of these things? If you've done your intentional effort ahead of time and said, all right, here's the top people that I would use if I was new to the area. So you must identify the influencers in your town and not just have it happen by accident because you happen to know somebody or they reached out to you. Like if you can, with integrity, say to a buyer, I've done my research, I've called references, here's the best X in the town. So this identifying thing, people you know, who in your world do you have connection with that has the shortest path to an influencer relationship? So if you're just starting out in luxury or just starting, I mean, this works for real estate too, but if you're just starting out, you say, all right, let's identify some people. Let's start with teachers. Let's start with bosses. Let's start with consultants that you've used, accountants that you use, doctors that you've used, business owners that you've used. You know, you're really just trying to identify who in your world is already an influencer and you just want to gain their influence. Anyone else, can you think of anywhere else that you can find an influencer relationship or people that you might know? Church, absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Civic club,
Say again?
civic clubs.
Clubs? Absolutely. So here's what we're talking about, groups to check. Where can you hang out to get into relationship with influencers? charity boards, volunteer boards, tennis clubs, golf courses, civic action groups. I should add churches to this, absolutely. And these are places that, and intentional is the word that I really like to use in this, because if it just happens to you, then yes, you can have a real estate business. But if you turn it around and say, all right, I'm going to go out and find them, then it's going to be a very good influencer relationship. Peers, like relationships, referrals exist in the real estate industry. So influencers can be retired agents. They can be non-competing realtors. They can be realtors in feeder markets. They can be realtors in the same company, because you might have somebody who's in the commercial business that you want to be in the luxury business. So you do referrals back and forth. So influencers aren't just, I think when we think of allied resources, and what Wes said at the beginning, talking about allied resources, we automatically default to mortgage people, insurance people, people that are already in our industry. The problem is with those people is their influence is already being drawn on by all of us realtors. There's tons of us out there, right? So if we can find influencers that get asked a lot, but they don't have all of these other relationships with realtors, then I would spend more time in those relationships. So influencers need to be met where they are. So Bruce Gorell. So this is another story that I tell. Bruce is my first influencer, and he's the one that I look back on and said, how was I successful? How did I get into the luxury business? What happened? What are the footprints that I can follow? So Bruce's daughter, Abby, and I were lifeguards together when we were in high school. I went off to business school. I didn't talk to Abby in a long time, but I got into real estate, and you're taking the classes and you're trying to figure out, all right, who do I know? And I knew that Abby's dad sold $1 million houses on the lake. What I didn't know is he built, he bought houses, flipped them, and then put them on the lake. So the more and more I got to know who Bruce was, the more and more I knew I needed to be in relationship with him. Abby, my friend, married Tim White, who was another lifeguard back in high school. So I used to send information to Tim and say, Tim, can you send this to Bruce? And it would be like stats, it would be new listings, it would be all of this stuff. I was trying to earn that influencer relationship. And so I would send stuff to Tim, he'd send it to Bruce. I'd send stuff to Tim, he'd send it to Bruce. Eventually, Bruce started asking me questions directly. So it took me a good 3 years to earn influence over Bruce. I'd start to visit him, I'd start to play golf with him, all of these things. But it was 3 years before he said, Adam, can you list my waterfront house? Or Adam, can you help a friend of mine out? And because of that persistence, and because of me identifying him in the beginning, I've sold 10 of his houses, and they're all multi-million-dollar houses. And then he introduced me to my second influencer, who have sold another 10 multi-million-dollar houses for Chris Peterson. So this was one of those, keystones or key parts of my getting into, I'm realizing I'm on a different on a different slide. He's one of my key reasons that I got into the real estate business and was successful in the real estate business. So influencers are intentionally chosen, and then it can take a long time to earn. But Bruce is a real good example of a top 10. So we've got 3 categories. We've got top 10 influencers, top 100 influencers, and then the top 100 people to know. So let's talk about the top 10 first. This is a category for the most important influencers affecting your real estate career. So Bruce, right? So it took me 3 years to get this relationship. So it makes sense I'm not going to have a lot of these relationships. I've turned into friends with Bruce. I've traveled to Florida and traveled to him and played golf with him down there. It's a very important relationship in my real estate, and personally too. He's a mentor of mine now. But how to earn them? You go to where they hang out. They won't come to you. You do what's important to them. You add value to their lives or things that they care about. You get to know them as people and seek advice. Like I said, Bruce is a mentor of mine, and I call him, one, to stay in touch with him, but the best touch that I can have with this type of influencer is a call to ask for advice. I called my friend Tim Chisuli, or another top 10 who I'm doing a deal with today. Once COVID hit, I said, Tim, what do you get? He owns a big car dealership. I said, what are you going to do now that COVID's hit? Because the car business is a leading indicator for us. So I like calling him and asking him how his business is, knowing in a couple of months it's going to be a reflection on our business. And he said, well, all those decisions are made. And I was like, this is just happening. How do you have all the decisions made? He said, well, every year my leadership team and I sit down and we talk about DEFCONs. We have DEFCON 1 through 5. If DEFCON 1 happens, means our sales have gone to this level, so we know what expenses we're going to cut. If it goes to DEFCON 2, we know what additional expenses we're going to cut. If it goes to DEFCON 3, we know who we're going to fire. Like, he had that level of detail in his contingency plan before COVID even hit. So he wasn't stressed about COVID hitting. So, think about that mentor relationship. He actually came to my team meeting a year ago and spoke at the team meeting and did this amazing inspirational speech for us. So influencer relationships, yes, can help your real estate business, but they can help you personally and professionally, and then some. Any questions so far, Wes, or?
Great. Anything?
All good?
Tell me, I got a question as far as go to where they hang out.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of signs that says high net worth individual hang out here.
Well, I mean, if they're on a charity board, you might join that charity board. If they're at golf courses, you join there. If they're at different clubs, volunteering, like you're going, and maybe hangout's the wrong word, but go to where they are versus expecting them to come to you. Like you have to, it's an effort to identify them and seek them out somehow, whether it's calling them and saying, hey, I'm, because you have a mutual friend. Just say, I've got some questions about my business. I'm a business person. I like to interview other business people. Do you mind if I come by and ask you a couple questions? Like, so you're going and seeking them out.
So is it something where you search maybe on their LinkedIn page or their Facebook page, kind of see what they've been doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, see who they're connected with, because an introduction is so much easier than the cold call. Try to find a link.
Okay.
This is, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is more of a comment, but I thought it was interesting how you're talking about look at different industries that they are influences for, because like lenders might have a whole lot, but seems like my neighbor's a musician. So it seems like having that connection so that they're probably not getting asked a lot but people talk about buying, selling houses for them. So if they trusted me enough to give me their name, my name to their friends, and that's what you're talking about. I thought that was
oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. So that now this is the second category, top 100 influencers. So this is a category for the other influencers in your life or, affecting your real estate career. So you say, what's the difference between top 10 and top 100? Top 100 are actually harder to keep track of because they're people, remember the definition, you have influence over them, meaning they'll give your name out for real estate, and they have influence in the community, meaning people are asking them potentially who they should use for real estate. But the reason for this category is I remember a time when I got called, they said, so-and-so gave me your name as a really good realtor in the area. I'd like to list my house. Would you come talk to me? And then in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I haven't talked to so-and-so for 2 years. So shame on me for not nurturing that influencer relationship. So the top 10 we have, and we'll talk about it, but the top 10 we have kind of a cadence. I call it a cadence. Like how much do I want to keep in touch with my top 10? How much do I want to keep in touch with my top 100? So these are people that have an influence, same as the top 10, but it's probably better for you to seek them out in areas that you're already in. Like you can't go out and forge these 100 new relationships and things that you aren't already doing, or places you're not interested in. So if I sought out a whole bunch of influencers in a hiking club, my life would be awful because I don't like hiking. My wife would like it because she loves hiking, but it's just walking up a hill. So for me, I seek out relationships in my golf club because I like to go golfing. Like, so I've got 3 days of lead generation coming up. I'm going up to the private club. I was invited as a guest. And tomorrow night there is a cookout, and there's probably going to be 30 people there that everybody in town would want a relationship with. But because this is something that I've created a, intentional effort around cultivating relationships in and doing something I like, then I sought out the right person. Now I've got invited to meet his other people and things like that. So seek them out in areas that are important to you. What's the church groups, the charities, the social clubs, anything that you like to do and go in. You shouldn't go in and just hang out with your friends and talk to the same people all the time. Figure out who's there, who's worth being in a relationship with, and then get to know them as people and seek collaboration. So everyone see the difference between top 10 and top 100? All right, so now this is the allied resources. This is kind of the Realtor 101, what we're thinking about. These are the, we off the top of our head will say, all right, here are the insurance people, here are the title companies, the mortgage people, but I would go beyond that. Like for me, I would rather have the client list of the guy that maintains all the docks on the lakes than all the mortgage people combined. Like that client list is unbelievable. I want to buy that business. Like I'm trying to earn that relationship with the guy that services all the docks. And actually the guy that installs the docks, I invite him into my real estate world and have him teach classes on shoreline permitting. One, it helps him grow his business, and two, it cultures my people to know or allied resource relationship with him. So you probably don't know the people to know is what we call it. So the PTK, that's what our label in our brevity. But if you think about a piece of paper, you say, all right, you're moving to Wolfboro. Here's 100 people to know in Wolfboro. That's the concept. And if you have 30 people on here, it's still a valuable list. Here's 50 people to know in Wolfboro. So it's the building of this list and the cultivating of those relationships. So then you ask, all right, what's the difference between an influencer that's a top 100 and a top 100 people to know? There might be a little bit of overlap, but the influencers might be retired and they don't service clients anymore. They might be full, like the builders are 3 years out. So it could be still an influencer, but it's not necessarily a person you're going to have on that piece of paper that you're handing to buyers. So that's kind of the difference. We promote their business and hope they will return the favor. That's the people to know. So every time you give out that piece of paper, or every time you give out somebody's name, the thing that people forget to do is call that person and say, hey, so-and-so might call you because I just gave out your name to them and they were looking for a plumber or what have you. So don't lose track of giving yourself credit and giving them the knowledge that you're giving out their name. So earning the people to know is be proactive. Oh, that's what I was saying. Tell them and show them when you do. I mean, we think about giving out referrals. I mean, giving out reviews. Like, so if we go on Facebook and we get a review, we're super psyched about that. We're counting our reviews. Hey, we hit 100 reviews. But shame on us if we haven't given out reviews, right? I did a review on a furniture company because they gave us great service. I mean, they came up, they installed a bed frame in our ski condo. They actually came up in a snowstorm. So I wrote out just what a great thing it was. And it happened to be the owners of the company that did it. And what I heard later is they read the review in their office meeting. So not only were the owners happy with that review, everybody in the office, everybody who worked for the company, is probably 30 or 40 people, that said, hey, Adam Dow, local realtor, is promoting our business. So have a goal at, once a week or twice a week or once a day. I mean, it's not that hard. Go out and review clients and then call them up and say, hey, I just threw a 5-star review on Google for you or Yelp or and pick different days. So don't stack them up too much. It's just a very good touch to add to your 33 touch or whatever. So we've got the top 10, top 100 people to know. An ignored influencer is somebody else's influencer tomorrow. So this is just a reminder that the cadence that I talked about, if you've got the different categories, you should have a different cadence of keeping in touch with them. The top 10 is usually easy because they've turned into friends. They are people that you admire and ask advice from, but it's those top 100 that are influencers for you, but you have ignored them. And like I said, these are the relationships that everyone wants to be in. So you just want to be intentional to stay on track in keeping in maintenance of those relationships. But you can also just be authentic about it. Just call up, hey, say, how's your business? Ask them a question. One of my best excuses for calling influencers and people that are people to know is if there's a tax law change. So one, I'll call my tax accountant and say, in February, what are any of the new tax laws that my high net wealth people should know about, or anyone? And then I'll call 20 people and say, hey, just so you know, new this year is a tax law. If you need more information, call my recommended accountant, so-and-so, who gave me this information. I tell my team, never waste a real estate conversation. If you have one really good conversation with somebody, say it 20 more times to other clients. Just pick up the phone. I also love shoreland regulations when they change, because it gives me an excuse to call all my waterfront owners. Hey, just so you know, you can't cut as many trees down. So if you're thinking about cutting a tree down, do it now, because next year it's going to be illegal. Those types of things. They say, hey, thanks, Adam. And they continue to think of you as the authority in your field. Ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results. This is the whole don't overthink it and just being consistent. If you have a thing in your calendar, call the accountant, get the bit of advice, call the environmental person, get the bit of advice, and then have your influencers all tagged. So now you can just call them all and just say, hey, just so you know, tax law change. Don't know if it affects you, but call so-and-so just to double check. And just being consistent around that. That's what fosters these relationships. So I have the top 10. I like once a month on frequency. They tend to be easier, like I said. I also am very pro market reports on these folks. Like, we're in a second home, I still send them market reports. If they're not in my market, so we have a feeder market for us, right? So people in Boston have influence over people. Like, I've got a teacher at Harvard that's getting market reports. They're never going to move here. But my line and my script to them is, this relationship is super important to me. I don't send out recipe cards. What I do send out is market reports, which will show you what is sold, what's available. Would you mind if I just put you on one of those? I'll put it on like $5 million or above. So it's really real estate porn that you can look at these big, nice waterfront homes. But what it does is, when I see your name, when it goes out, it'll remind me of our relationship, and hopefully it'll do the same for you. That's why how I want to keep in contact with you. So the market report is my recipe card. It's how I stay in touch with influencers, and I narrow it down to, do they want to see $1 million homes? Do they actually want to see homes around their property? Whatever they want is how I do it. But we call it in our brevity as a goal, market reports with follow-up. And the follow-up means you're actually talking to them, making sure they're getting what they want. Top 100, these are harder to maintain, like I said. I think once a quarter is good on these guys. Also, have them on other touches like market reports, but blatantly say it's because you want to be in relationship. You don't want their relationship to diminish. Ask Malcolm. So Malcolm Bricklin is he brought Subaru to the United States. He's I don't know how old he is. He's getting up there in years. He did the Bricklin car, and then now he's doing the Bricklin electric car. So I met him through that car dealer I was talking about. And Malcolm Bricklin sends me a text every morning because I met him. We spent a week on a yacht. Another good thing about influencer relationships, if you really get the right ones, you get some pretty cool things. But I got invited to be on Tim's yacht, and Malcolm was there, and we enjoyed ourselves. I treated him as a mentor. I asked him a bunch of business questions. It was a very cool week for me. And he sends me texts every morning, GM. And he does that with all the people that he wants to be reminded of the relationship. So I send a text back, GM. And every once in a while, I'll send him a sunset because that's what we took pictures of in Italy. And, so I still have a relationship with Malcolm based on his system of just sending GM every morning in a text. I don't know how many people he does that to, but every morning on the boat, I was wondering what he was doing because he was looking at his phone, just like doing repetitive things over and over again. So just something that's consistent and something that reminds them of the relationship. So you're not overthinking the product, you're giving them a purpose for why it's happening. Maintaining people to know. Again, once a quarter is probably good. More is better with these guys. Find out ways to promote their business. That's the most important thing is having is this win-win relationship that you're providing more value to them so that they don't even second guess giving you information. So things that you can do for your influencers, promote in the newsletter, promote on the website. I think that email footer is very expensive real estate that no one uses, including myself. I've said this hundreds of times and I still am not doing it. But if you had a featured charity, featured business, featured something in your email footer, and you just called up and you did it once a month, to say, hi, so-and-so influencer, I know you're on the board for the whatever, boys club, and I know you've got this event coming up in June. Do you mind if I put that in my email footer with the link? Because I just have so much correspondence going out, maybe it'll draw more attention to your business or to your charity. It's just something that doesn't cost you money. It's just intentional effort of trying to promote their business. So email footers, print materials, if you've got stuff that's going out. I think that people try to get too much money for folders and things like that. If you just did a folder and just said, hey, for the month of June, I'm going to promote your business on all of these different things, or we're doing another print run of this. Do you mind if I put your business on as a 5-star service provider? Just think of ways you can promote these allied resources. Hold joint events like I talked about with Paul. Tag yourself at their location in social media. I think we're an industry that wants to take in social media, and we're not good at giving. So everything that we would want to have happen, reviews, 5 stars, all of that, go out and do it because you'll have it come back. Don't overlook expertise. So Steve he was a CEO, was a CEO. Now he's a consultant for CEOs. And after church, we were going out to the Chinese food place to get lunch, and I knew Steve was going to be there. This is when I was very young in the business, about 20 years ago. And so I said, all right, I know Steve's going to ask me how's the market, and I don't want to have a stupid answer for him. I don't want to say it's crazy. I don't, so I did some paperwork, and I said, here's the average. All right. I figured out what was the average price of my town, what was the average price last year, and then I had the days on market. I had some very specific data that I memorized because I didn't want to just stall when Steve asked me the question. And so we're sitting there having lunch, and Steve's charismatic. This guy, he's going around the table being nice, and he knew I just got into real estate because my mom told him. And so he's like, hey, Adam, I hear you're in real estate. How's the market? And I spit out this very specific information And I could tell that he was just asking me to be nice, and he was about to move on to the next person and ask them something personal to them. And I saw him visually, or I saw him literally stop and then come back to me and say, really? And he asked me a couple more follow-up questions. So in that moment, I had a 30-second interview with him, and I proved myself to be a luxury expert or a real estate expert at the time. So that's when I committed to myself, and my team now has to have an elevator speech. Every time someone's asked how the market is, they need to have specific information that will make somebody stop from going to the next person and focus on them and say, holy crap, you know what you're talking about. So luxury, the state of great comfort and extravagant living. Expert is a person who has comprehensive knowledge and authoritative knowledge of a skill or in a particular area. So for us, if we're trying to break into luxury, we're trying to get these relationships, we need to have expertise. And it's not just on real estate, negotiation, the market, like I just talked about, but it might be like, for me, my expertise that really carried the day. And I had just a call with, I helped a teammate out. My expertise was a spreadsheet, and I separated values because I knew that waterfront was different here on a lake than it is in Boston or in Naples or wherever. I separate out, here's the land value, here's the house value. Here's the price per shorefront foot, here's the house, here's the price per square foot. So we've got 2 per square foot numbers. And we just did a whole line by line analysis on this person has brought a couple of companies public. He's like, Adam, this was so helpful. I really appreciate this. And then my agent called me back and said, thank you so much for making me look good. So be an expert in my luxury real estate market, and the nuances of it has carried the day for me for the last 20 years. So figure out what your luxury market is, how you can be an expert in it. That's different from Zillow. That's different from realtor.com, because they spit out generic numbers. So for me, I wanted to say, all right, I want to have something that they can't Google and find online. All right, so that's the Steve thing. If you met an influencer today, what would you say if they asked you one or both of these questions? How is the market? What makes you different from other realtors? So, for us, we're on really good teams. You work with Wes, who's a very good team lead. We've got Place. Like, we need to know how to package that up and say, it's not just a crazy market, and this is why you should deal with me. Like having what makes you different, what's your differentiator when you're earning these, identifying the influencer relationships, you're earning the relationships, you're maintaining them. You really need to figure out what makes you as a realtor on the team that you're on different from the thousands of other realtors that are out there.
Adam, another thing is we got some other people from the market center here too, but having that Keller Williams luxury designation, I think is a huge one too, because that's an earned in designation. That's not something someone can pay a fee or sign up for to be classified in there.
Yeah, and I think I'm the luxury ambassador up here in New England. So from the luxury perspective, the thing that KW does is they know that people hire people, right? So one of the things they've done really well, and one of the things that I was very appreciative of at the beginning is when I presented my draft sign to the ROP, he said, my name's too big, your name's too small. And it was very countercultural to me. It was like, holy crap, they actually want me to promote me. This KW thing is pretty cool. And they've done that so well that I think sometimes people don't equate KW with luxury. So we're working on, and the reason I joined as the ambassador is using the KW luxury logo ties us all together. Because in New Hampshire, we sell more real estate homes or more $1 million homes than any other firm. So we're trying to say, all right, how do we band together and tell the story that's already true, that we're very good at luxury, but we just happen to be very good at everything else too.
And give us a 15-second kind of explanation as far as what an ambassador is, what Luxury Pro is, and then what Keller Williams Luxury is.
All right, so KW Luxury Pro, let me go backwards. Keller Williams has 3 levels. So level 1 is the property. The good thing about KW is if you have a luxury property and a luxury client, just because you haven't earned in yet doesn't mean that that property can't be marketed as a luxury property, right? So you can use the luxury sign, you can have the luxury logo on property flyers, all of that stuff. It's a luxury property. You work for a company that has luxury marketing, you can go after it on the luxury perspective if you've got a luxury client, even though you're not earned in. Second level is you don't have to pay to play at KW either in the luxury. Like if you earn in, I think it's like 4 sales in the last 2 years, whatever your price point is, and you can talk with your team leader or OP about that. And so if you sell 4, it should earn you in, and then I think our team leader, I think, turns it on. If you see the luxury thing going, that means you've earned in the community. You can get in on the training. You can use the luxury logo on your cards. You can have it in your bios and things like that. So now you're a Keller Williams luxury agent because you've met a certain criteria. And I like that from the consumer perspective. You know, you can say, I've got the KW luxury logo on my card because I've earned it. I just didn't pay for it like some other companies. I've earned the fact that I'm a luxury agent. And of the 180,000 agents that are at KW, there's only about 10,000 that have done that. And I'm one of them, right? So when you earn in, it's a big deal and it should be celebrated. Level 3 is for those agents that really like to socialize, travel, do the special parties, go above and beyond on the extravagant parties and things like that. There is a $250 a month membership, but it's basically for agents that really want to get the most out of networking with other luxury agents. Like they were all in Atlanta this month, listening to a fantastic speaker, having a great meal, like doing the luxury things. So the level 2 and the level 3, it makes sure that everybody who's earned in gets the ability to be recognized as a luxury agent. And they don't have to pay for all of this other stuff that other people are willing to pay for and take full advantage of. So I think one of the biggest advantages of KW Luxury is the network. I'm in small Facebook groups with people that are all over the country. Like I've got a second home group that, Breckenridge, Vail, Miami, Palm Springs, all over kind of the country, and we all just say, hey, how's your market? Hawaii, and what are you doing for marketing? So that's what KW is based on: best practices, joining together, making each other better. And KW Luxury just elevates that because it's kind of another one of those things that can be transferred to different markets.
Very good. And tell us about an ambassador.
Ambassador is basically the person that represents you, your region, and it's the layer between you as agents and your leadership to Brady Sandall and his group at KW Luxury. So if somebody in New England has a luxury question, they call me up, say, hey, where's the best place to get an answer for this? So I know where the answers are. I don't just, if I know the answer, I will, but it's not heavy lifting on solving their problems. It's just that conduit to get an agent who has something they need to the right spot.
Thanks for that quick aside there. Thank you.
So, and this is the last thing, like if you want to take action on something like this, identify influencers, you write them down now. Like who's somebody that has influence that you should be in relationship with? And then think about, how do I get in relationship with them? And then you think about, all right, what community am I in? What boards am I on? What recreational activities that I do that there's influencers in? And then put 2 tags in your Brivity or in your CRM. Have earning relationship. Because the people that you're trying to earn a relationship with are people that it's very easy to put those on the back burner, right? Because there's nothing calling you to do that. But if you once a month say, all right, here are my sorted by earning relationship, I haven't talked to them, or I haven't sent them a card, or I haven't liked them on Facebook, or I haven't recommended their business, or whatever you're doing to earn the relationship, it just reminds you that that's something that is effort. It's worth it, but it can take some time.
Questions for Adam?
It's not really good. It's really good.
And I can send you this the slide deck too, if you
Thank you. Danielle, any questions? All right, what's the script? I'm hanging out with, I've gone into maybe a art show down at the Frisk Center here in Nashville.
Yep.
And, I've seen a person there because I go to these things often and I see them. How do I get in contact with them?
Are
What's
they, are they a part of it or are they just hanging out?
They're part of it too. It's something where we paid a fee to be a supporter of that, maybe an art show of an artist coming in or something of that nature.
So the best thing is if you're part of a, like I was the marketing board member of my golf club. Couple reasons for that. One, I wanted to show I was good at marketing because that's what I do is I market homes. I like to get people's emails that I don't abuse, but I like to have them. And I like to be the face of some of the stuff that is going on. So like I'll take pictures of the golf course and I'll send it to the manager and she'll put it on, the Facebook page, courtesy of Adam Dow. I did a 3D tour. No, I did a video of the golf course for free. And I had somebody with the drones. I did something that was really cool about it. Something for the art place that you can consider. During COVID, I actually bought a 3D camera, like a Matterport type camera. I never liked those before because I think people could see the house without actually talking to me. And I like people to talk to me so I can talk them into the area, the community. You can't talk to people into houses, but you can give them more information. So I didn't want them to think looking at the Matterport was the end all be all. But once COVID hit, people were in quarantine. People still wanted to buy houses in New Hampshire, but they were stuck in Massachusetts. I bought a 3D camera and I said, all right, I'm going to send you 2 tours. One is the one you're going to find online. That's all the good stuff. The second tour is a scary basement in the garage that's full of crap. And you want to see that, right? So here it is. Since I had the camera, I called the artist studio, which was closed. And I said, hey, do you want me to do a 3D tour of your art gallery so people can actually visit the art gallery virtually? And she was through the moon. She sent it to her whole database, thanked me profusely. So it's really, and we did a 3D tour of the school during COVID. We had to be careful because we didn't want to give a sniper the route, but we also wanted to be able to give the kids the tour of the school. If they're entering the junior high for the first time, and it was coming out of COVID, they did the 3D tour. Here's your homeroom and all of that kind of stuff. So it's figuring out what we do already, what we already have capabilities and resources for, and offering it to things like the art gallery.
Very good. Okay.
I like to take control of the correspondence. Like when I do the joint events, I always try to figure out like client events. Instead of doing it at a restaurant where you're paying for it, unless it's a brand new restaurant, like so you're trying to give them business, I do that. But if you want to do a client event, I might bring in some catering to the local kitchen store because kitchen stores often get calls from people saying, I'm selling my house, so I need to redo my kitchen. So I'd rather have an event that would showcase their showroom than pay for a restaurant where everyone's just kind of hanging out, or having a team event there or things like that. So it's trying to combine all of these different businesses that we can all have this win-win event together by calling attention to their business.
That's a great one. Any other ideas you guys are thinking about that want Adam's tips on as far as how to approach it?
No, I really enjoyed it though.
Cool.
All right, Adam, quiet group.
All right.
I appreciate it.
It's all great ideas. Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much again for joining us today.
You're welcome. Good luck.
All right, thanks.
So he's from New Hampshire?
Was Keller Williams I never heard that before.